Let me start with something uncomfortable, but being very real. Okay, this thing is real. Have you ever hesitated to support the church financially because you thought, what if the leaders are teaching error? Or what if funds are being misused? Or even, I don't trust how things are being handled. So here's the honest question many believers actually wrestle with. Okay, they ask, do I incur personal guilt before God if I financially support a church whose leaders may be doing wrong? Now, to be honest, to me, that's not a question of rebellion, depending with the motive. Okay, that's not a question of rebellion. That's conscience at play for me. And the Bible actually speaks to this clearly, that, Jesus once stood in the temple and watched people giving offerings. Okay, now listen. Among them was a poor widow, quite unnoticed, who gave 2 small coins. Now, here is the part we often miss. The religious system of that time, of those days, was corrupt. Leadership was actually failing. Judgment was near. Yet Jesus didn't condemn her gift. He actually praised her. Now Luke tells us Jesus said she gave more than all the rest because she gave with a sincere heart. That's from Luke chapter 21 verse 2 to 4. Her offering, this woman's offering, wasn't approved because the system was perfect. It was accepted because her motive was pure. The distinction here actually matters because Ellen White also builds on this same principle from Scripture. So she taught that even when church funds are misapplied, the giver does not lose God's blessings. God holds leaders accountable for their leadership, but He honors sincere faithfulness. At the same time, she was very clear about something else. If things are wrong at leadership levels, we do have, as members, a responsibility, not to gossip, don't get me wrong, not to rebel, not to abandon the church or create new churches, but to speak plainly and openly in the right spirit, notice, and to proper people. I said proper people, okay? So silence isn't faithfulness, but neither is actually withdrawal or rebellion. And here's the part many people struggle with, okay? Our sister explicitly warned against withholding tithe because of dissatisfaction. Now, some, she said, would say, I won't return my tithe anymore. I don't trust how things are managed. And then she asked the piercing question. Will you rob God because you think the management is not right? Well, her counsel was firm but well balanced. Make your concerns known, send your petitions, seek reform, but do not prove unfaithful to God because others are unfaithful in their duties. In other words, my faithfulness to God is not cancelled or done away with by someone's failure. God separates personal obedience from corporate accountability. He judges leaders for their leadership and He honors members for faithfulness. So here's the takeaway. Supporting God's work does not mean endorsing every human action, and refusing to give actually doesn't fix corruption. It only weakens the mission. So God never told us to ignore wrong, but He also never asks us to abandon faithfulness. So let me ask you gently and just honestly, how do you balance conscience, courage, and commitment in imperfect systems God is still working through. Now, drop your thoughts below. Let's talk about grace and truth. Drop your comments in the comment section below.